First of all, watch your step, Philip, because we're about to jump down that rabbit hole.
Fantastic. Can't wait. Where are we going, Dwayne?
Okay, well, where are we going? We're here. Welcome. Since I've been mucking around with our YouTube channel, I've been looking at a couple of other YouTube channels that are out there. I switched off a lot a couple of years back when the 13th Doctor started, because there was so much hatred, so much vitriol out there that it just got too depressing for me, and I wanted to give the run a chance. And I know you and I have spoken, and you know very well that I wasn't personally, this is not to say I share everyone's view, but I was not personally impressed with the festive special that we just had, Revolution of the Daleks, and it was kind of like the last chance I'd given the show before I sort of felt this real disconnect, a disconnect that I'd never felt before. So I've been looking around at some other YouTube channels, and of course you gravitate towards opinions that kind of suit yourself. There's still a lot of hatred out there, which I don't really like. But something interesting came up that's been talked about a lot. That Russell T Davies has spoken about Doctor Who and how it should be like Marvel. It should have these offshoot franchises, very different series, a bit like what Star Wars is doing at the moment. And I just wanted to get your view on whether you think that is an option for Doctor Who, the TV series, going off on these different TV tangents. We did have that under Russell T Davies to a degree. It wasn't quite the same. If you look at someone like Star Wars, you have series that are sort of all aimed at the same audience, whereas RTD's series were aimed at different age groups, although I enjoyed all three of them, Doctor Who, Sarah Jane Adventures and Torchwood. What are your thoughts, Philip? Do you think it's possible for Doctor Who to go off on those tangents? Is the BBC set up to be able to afford to do something like this?
I think the issue is more that, actually, every time Doctor Who has done a spin-off into a different area, it has been a success. So there was 2 Dalek films in the 60s, and both of them, I think, add a lot to Doctor Who. I think the Daleks movie and Invasion Earth, whatever it is, 20, whatever it is, are both great films. They both were very successful. The second one not financially rated as much as the first one, so they didn't make a third, which they had the option to. But both those films have stood the test of time. They're still great fun to watch. The spin-offs of both Sarah Jane, Torchwood, were both huge successes. Class, not so much so. But then that wasn't Russell T. That was someone else who did Class. And I must admit, I didn't actually watch the whole thing. I watched the first couple of episodes and just decided...
How funny is that? I watched 2 episodes and I stopped. I didn't like it at all.
Yeah, and so I've not listened to the Big Finish stuff either for that reason, because...
Same here.
So, yeah, there you go. We're too similar, Dwayne. It scares me sometimes. But, yeah, and I actually don't think Star Wars, at the moment, what we're seeing isn't for different audiences. I think The Mandalorian is the same board. I think too many people take too many young kids to the films. So I don't think number 2 and number 3 are suitable. I haven't shown my 10-year-old them yet, though I know lots of people do, and that's their choice. But certainly the first time I showed number 3 to my kids, they were a bit older. I think they were about 12, 13, 14, and I even skipped some sections. So I actually don't think Star Wars is for all ages. I think it's designed for 13, 14 and up. And I think so far what I've seen, Mandalorian
I didn't say it was designed for all ages. I said my view of Star Wars at the moment is they're aiming for all the same audiences, whereas Russell T Davies was aiming for different audiences.
Yeah. Okay. So okay, I agree. I see what you're saying, and yes, you're probably right, actually. I think,
but now Russell T is saying that we should be doing something similar to the Marvel universe. I'm not into Marvel myself, but I know there's all these different tangents that go off everywhere, all interconnected characters. Star Wars is doing the same thing, announcing all these different series. The big buzz about Star Wars at the end of last year, of course, was the appearance of Luke Skywalker at the end of season 2 of The Mandalorian. Yeah, well, I think if you haven't seen it,
Bad luck.
tough luck. It's all over the internet, so
It is.
you'd
I
have
agree.
to. So that was huge, and that's what a lot of these critics of the Chibnall era in particular are saying, that Star Wars pandered to what the fans wanted at the end of The Mandalorian there, and because the same critics, there's similar critics of the Star Trek series that are out there at the moment as well. So. I just hope that Doctor Who could do something like that.
Well, I think Big Finish has shown that they can. Because we have the Missy series, we have the War Master series, we have the spin-offs happening, and they're embracing the characters, taking the characters even further, and producing better stuff sometimes than the show was able to do.
I would say not sometimes.
Often.
Yeah.
Sometimes, always, depending on the character. But I think we're seeing that it's obviously possible, but it would take lots of money, and I don't think the BBC is prepared to spend that sort of money. And it's also, Doctor Who fans are used to the fact that it just goes on and on. So I think when Torchwood ended, I don't think Torchwood people have really got over the fact that it ended. I'm not sure. I mean, I think there was complicated things in Russell T Davies's personal life happening in terms of his partner, which is part of the reason why he didn't have the energy to put into pushing it further. Okay. But I mean, the fact he went to America to find the money was because the BBC just couldn't find the money for it. Which is sort of why Torchwood ended. Sarah Jane, of course, only ended because of the death of Elizabeth Sladen. And I think...
But Torchwood Series 4 is a good example of too much American involvement, because I just did not connect with that series either. Once the Doctor Who universe leaves British shores, it seems to lose something. And I did not enjoy Torchwood Series 4 very much at all. Of course, you got the main characters there, which are fantastic, but it had that American tone to it that I just didn't connect with. I didn't like it.
Yeah, I enjoyed the series. I thought it was padded out too long. I mean, the entire second episode on a plane with very little happening. It just felt like there was lots of padding. I think that's part of trying to save money, make things happen. But yeah, I think it had a lot of advantage things to it. But it was such a bleak concept, and I think sometimes Russell T can be a bit bleak and depressed, and the whole series was very, very dark. But a fascinating concept. I mean, a brilliant concept to think about. That, what would happen if no one could die? And I don't think I'd ever thought through the consequences of how bad it would be for the world if everyone kept living and couldn't die.
Yeah. So I think probably if we're going to have those offshoot universes or offshoot story arcs that Russell T Davies suggests, then the money's going to have to come from international backers.
Yeah, and once you start involving more international backers, it changes the whole shape of how it looks. I think the reason why Doctor Who looks so good is because it's often just one or two people with a vision and then people who love it, making it work. But once you bring in lots of money from outsiders, then the interest is more in about making profit. And Mandalorian, I love it, but it's about making profit, and you can see it's about the sales of the products and the et cetera. And that being said, though, they've found some pretty cheap way of technology to make things happen cheaply and well.
Okay, well, that's something for us to ponder and maybe discuss again down the track. So I think it might be time to get out of this rabbit hole. What do you think? Let's climb out. If you enjoyed what you heard in this clip from the Sirens of Audio podcast, be sure to subscribe and click that notification bell so you never miss out on another episode from us. And if you want to find out more about us, including our back catalogue of episodes, you can head over to sirensofaudio.com.